Hello guys, this is me, Buttercup here, and I'm the toughest one out of them all in terms of the Powerpuff Girls and all that jazz, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys, as you might already know about this at this rate. And welcome back for the next installment of my video game collection video. Because I believe last time that I believe Rainbow Dash did done the PlayStation 4 game collection video, but that was in like almost by the end of the disastrous year of 2020. But on the other hand, though, we're on a new year now, so we are moving on to the next installment of our video game collection video. And this time we are moving on to the Microsoft Xbox series of gaming and stuff. Originally, it was going to able to wrap things up with the rest of the Sony stuff, mainly with PlayStation Portable or PlayStation Vita, but we'll save that for a later day. But for now, we're focusing on the Xbox Microsoft stuff, starting off with, of course, the one that started it all, the original Xbox. And this machine right here first came out in November the 15th in 2001. Jesus Christ, it has been almost 2 decades old for this particular machine right here. And let me tell you for this point, guys, it is so beastly heavy for what I've managed to carry that throughout the whole entire purpose of this recording. And believe me, it is pretty tough looking, but hey, at least it's pretty cool in design. So obviously it also came out in Japan and Australia and in our country in the UK until 2002, so that was like a year later for between. And the lifespan for the original Xbox is roughly, well, it did start things off in 2001 all the way up to 2009, although in some regions might able to differ from the lifespan's discontinuation. Like for example, in Japan, it doesn't last for very long. It only lasts for about it did start in 2002, and then it finishes, or discontinued rather, until 2006. And in Europe, it was about 5 years in between, so it starts off in 2002, all the way up to 2007. And North America, on the other hand, though, has the biggest, lifespan on that country. Usually for about 8 years or so, which is kind of weird, because usually Xbox 360 did came around in 2005 during that time. So, as far as the actual unique selling points for this Xbox goes, usually it's more likely a competitor to the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo GameCube. And obviously the PlayStation 2 did manage to dominate the sales due to play backwards compatibility with PlayStation 1 things, and also play DVDs and CDs as well. And just like the PlayStation 2 for the Xbox, this machine technically also plays DVDs, CDs, and for the first time ever for the gaming console marketing, I'm presuming if I remember correctly, it actually contains digital distribution, which meaning you can able to actually download some of the stuff from there. I'm guessing so. Even though I haven't really looked upon that much of the original Xbox these days, but it actually been sold since during the forms of May the 10th, 2006, according to the forms of Wikipedia page. It actually sold for about 24 million plus units, which is actually a little bit slightly better selling points compared to the GameCube and especially the Dreamcast, essentially, because this was in I would say the 6th generation of consoles. So even then though, but the only drawback into this particular system here is the fact that I don't know if it's necessarily the forms of the lack of third-party support or something, but I'm guessing most people complain about when this console was first released, they complained about the original controller, because the original controller for the original Xbox is really awkward. But luckily, later on during the forms of the lifespan, they did manage to release another model for the Xbox controller known as Controller S. And I'm going to say, Xbox Controller S is much better than the originals though. But that's just to me anyway. And usually, relatively speaking, is the fact that the best-selling games in this system, which will have to be by the forms of Halo 2, usually sell for about 8.46 million copies sold, as in November 2008. So, And what's unique about this system is that much like the LAN broadband or something like that for the GameCube or PS2 or even the Dreamcast, this machine also plays online stuff by the forms of Xbox Live, which becomes stable in the next few Xbox consoles out there. Well, most notably 4 at the moment. But this machine doesn't have the revisions unlike the future installments for the 360, One, and Series X. That usually this machine doesn't have its revision, but it does have several limited editions versions of this, mainly with the forms of the Crystal version, as well as God knows the Halo one. Even though I haven't really looked upon this that much, but either way though, it does look pretty cool looking too. Well, from the likes of the actual how do I describe it? Those other variations of those consoles in particular. And yeah, much like the Dreamcast and the GameCube and Nintendo 64, this machine also has 4 controller ports, which is very awesome. So yeah, that's about it in terms of the actual, the unit's history. Especially noticeable that, again, this is pretty heavy, but apart from those side of things though, I will try to sort this out and join at some point later on throughout the 2021 year. And yeah, this is going to be quite awkward, but hey, at least I did manage to able to put that down at least. So, anyways, that's not the reason why we're here for the Xbox history. We're actually going to be getting on to the games themselves. This video might be actually be kind of short, by the way, just because I don't usually get that much Xbox stuff, I don't think, because we're more into Nintendo things recently. So, but it knows what it is. So, either way though, let's get into the forms of the original Xbox game collection video. And what a great way to start things off, and I'm sure most people already know might be shocked about this. Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex, also known in Japan, Crash Bandicoot 4, apparently. And obviously this is a chronological order, so this is the only things I'm able to actually configure this much. And although, despite the fact that it's actually like misleading letters or anything else like that, but I'm more concerned about with Crash Bandicoot right here. So, anyway, and yeah, this is probably one of the weakest classic Crash Bandicoot game. Although it's fine for I played it, but it just feels kind of underwhelming compared to the forms of the superior Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, and even most recently Crash Bandicoot 4, the real Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. I'm quite surprised they never actually remake this, which is pretty obvious because most fans got extremely upset when it comes to the forms of some mechanics don't work, and the gameplay is remarkably similar to Warped, except, well, 10 times a little bit lackluster, because they have a lot of vehicles in this game this time around, which does remind me of Mario Party 9 and Mario Party 10, but you guys should probably already know. And I haven't got back into this yet, but either way though, I'm actually on to the second warp room, and yeah, I probably need to get back into that once I've hooked up my original Xbox at some point. But the reason why I picked up the Xbox version as opposed to the GameCube version and the PlayStation 2 versions is that, well, for one thing, the GameCube version has washed out visuals, and on the PlayStation 2 version, it has horrendous loading times. And that's why the Xbox version is more of the better of the three. Which is a good thing, because I actually got this for a pretty cheap price. Not too shabby, even though despite the disc is actually significantly scratched up. But it plays just fine on my original Xbox, luckily. So, but either way though, I'm quite pleased to have this version, because don't recommend the PS2 version unless it's your only option. Crash Nitro Karts, a spiritual sequel to Crash Team Racing we all know and love. And this game is alright. I mean, usually it's not the best kart racing Crash Bandicoot game out there. Usually I think that Team Racing is actually the better of the actual racing games for sure. But this game is actually pretty good. Like, the visuals all look really, really magnificently looking. And also the character roster actually brought back from ever since Crash Team Racing, along with some new racers as well. Well, to be more specifically, from the likes of based off from, well, the GBA games from Crash Bandicoot, thanks to Vicarious Visions, sorry. And I haven't got back into this yet either, just because, again, I haven't really hooked up to my original Xbox console just yet. But we'll get around to that at some point, whilst if I actually get bored for the sake of the actual, like, you know what I mean. And yeah, pretty good stuff, and very glad to have that. But there's also the ones on the Game Boy Advance version as well. But I've been meaning to getting that at some point, because from what I've heard, the Game Boy Advance version is actually pretty fun though. Talking of which, when it comes to another Crash Bandicoot game, Crash Twinsanity. In this case in Japan, it calls it Crash Bandicoot 5, which, yeah, I can totally see that. And this game is actually pretty alright. I mean, sure, it's a little bit better than the forms of how it does it on The Wrath of Cortex for sure, just because, for one, I guess there are only like 4 worlds to traverse through for this game, or I'm not exactly 100% sure because I haven't really played this game all that much either, just because, again, I haven't exactly hooked back onto my Xbox original that much. But hey, at least on the upside is though, is that you can able to play not only as Crash Bandicoot, and not only, Dr. Neo Cortex, sorry for a little bit of a tongue twisting here, folks, I do apologize for that. And also we get ourselves Nina Cortex, which appears to be by the forms of Dr. Neo Cortex's niece. And also they got ourselves a really, really cool break the fourth wall joke, like, you know, the Wrath of Cortex didn't go all that well. Yeah, I can definitely see what I mean right there, because Wrath of Cortex is pretty underwhelming. But this game is alright. I mean, usually it's kind of unfinished, because usually, relatively speaking, some of these sound effects are actually missing. And also, the actual physics are very slightly similar to me, as in, well, let's just say when it comes to the forms of, well, let's just say, for example, when Crash and Cortex will actually just manage to do a roll brawl, I don't think you can see it, there we go. It actually reminds me of something similar to Super Monkey Ball Adventure, which I noticed why that most people seem to address that. Especially noticeable that Traveler's Tales managed to able to actually develop this game. So, yeah, I enjoyed this. I mean, I need to get back into it though, because I'm still stuck on this very first world, because usually I'm trying to 100% everything. Shadow the Hedgehog, the original Xbox version, and just like the GameCube and the PlayStation 2 version, I pretty much got this for, let's just say, a pretty cheap price, and it's alright. I mean, certainly a bit better than the PlayStation 2 version in my opinion, just because, well, it seems pretty obvious about the fact that with a much more better loading times than the forms of how it does it on the PS2 version. And, yeah, even though most people seem to really hate this game, which, it's understandable, because it's nothing like the actual, a cartoony kind of Sonic game, and plus it has a lot of curse words like damn or hell or anything else like that. But even though I honestly don't mind this, it's just the fact that the reason why I got this on the original Xbox, just for curiosity's sake, and I've recently 100% the game ever since about almost 2 years ago, since 2019. So yeah, quite pleased to be able to 100% that. Sonic Heroes, and same thing for Shadow the Hedgehog. I pretty much got this for the same reason, and it's actually a pretty cheap price as well. And if you actually notice, this is actually a classics rebrand of the original Xbox packaging, because just like in my Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex game right here, and the other one as well, which I'll get into later, and overall, this version is also great, completely filtered away with nice 60 frames per second, as well as really, really great visuals. Even for the original Xbox and the GameCube versions of this same game, it is really, really great. Even though most people seem to complain about you have to replay for the game 4 times in a row to get actually access to the last story, along with the forms of the special stages, of course. But, this version is great, and I can't wait to able to actually just try to 100% this version too, along with the GameCube version, which I've already done. But as for the PS2 version is still the worst because of, you know, low frame rate and jigged up physics. And although there's one little downside I can think about the original Xbox version compared to the superior GameCube version is that the sound mixing is a bit obnoxious at times, mainly with the forms of certain cutscenes or something. But overall, really great version, and you can definitely recommend it. Sonic Mega Collection Plus. And much like the PlayStation 2 version, I pretty much got this, and yeah, really enjoyed this. And since, as you know, ever since in 2017, we actually did done the rest of the Game Gear Sonic games on specifically the Xbox version because of backwards compatibility and stuff like that, which is pretty cool all in all. And yeah, pretty nice to have this. It's kind of weird that the original Xbox doesn't seem to have that much Sonic games. Like, obviously I've got 3, and there's also another one which is actually Sonic Riders, not counting the forms of those combo packs, mind you. But surprisingly, they just only released 4 of these, so that seems a bit strange. But either way though, yeah, really great compilation game, so you should definitely recommend it. Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, and I'm very glad to have the what did I say, the PS2 version? I mean the original Xbox version of this game, because out of all the actual 2 versions of Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, this is by far the best one because of, you know, 60 frames per second, no loading times, and also really damn great visuals, even for the original Xbox version of the game. This is the more of a superior version of the game. And it's also backwards compatible with the Xbox 360, which is top notch. But the only downside is, though, is that the control stick ridges is not exactly precise, because you now need to deal with the 360, some sort of like a 360 spin, which can be imprecise on harder stages. I'm looking at you, Exam C. But apart from those side of things, though, it's a great looking game. And yeah, that will be your the best option to able to pick up this version as opposed to the PS2 version. So, because obviously the PS2 version, I think the analog stick is really bulky on the PS2 version, as well as the forms of the frame rate is a bit worse, and also a whole bunch of loading screens most of the time. But either way though, that's all I can muster say. Definitely recommend the Xbox version over the PS2 version. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Out of curiosity, I pretty much got this for a really cheap price. And just like Sonic Heroes and Crash Bandicoot with Wrath of Cortex, I actually got the classics packaging of, you know, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. And for what I played, I actually really enjoyed it. Even though I'm almost at a halfway point, even though I do need to complete most of those missions, so I believe even then, that might be something worth a buy. And also that it does contain an exclusive level from the Xbox version, which is a good thing that I choose this purchase over the, well, I would normally try to get the PS2 version, but I just never go around into purchasing the PS2 stuff. But either way though, really great game, and you should probably recommend it. And finally, in terms of the original Xbox games, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, and this is more of that open world game than the forms of, excuse me, I'm really sorry about this point folks, because I have some like pretty weird hiccups all of a sudden. But anyway, this is more of the open world games out of a whole lot, along with the any others as well, but this is easily one of the greatest looking Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game by far. And also, if you notice, there is actually a similar game to this called Disney's Skate Adventure that usually utilize the exact same engine as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. Like, you know, the same combos, same, you know, the UIs and stuff like that for that nature. And pretty similar stuff from there. And yeah, this is pretty obviously one of the greatest games. Too bad that the 5th game did screw up tremendously though. But either way though, really great looking game. And as far as the original Xbox collection is concerned, that's pretty much all I've got. There's only like, I would say 9 games I actually got. Oh wait, actually, yeah, I've got 9 games so far, which is a little bit lesser compared to the forms of other video game collections that we used to did done. But either way though, it knows what it is. So even then though, this is me, Buttercup, from the likes of the Maxi Toys. And until then, next up, in terms of our video game collection video, next up it will be, speaking of Xbox 360. So I hope you guys may be looking forward to this at some point this Thursday. Because after all, Silver the Hedgehog, he's busy carry on doing Kirby Superstar Ultra, so I'll let you guys know about this. So I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.